Joining us, thank you. Now, unless you're very rich indeed, it can't have escaped your notice. This country has become a very costly place in which to live. The staples of life are more expensive than ever, and wages have simply not kept up. People on low to middle incomes, working people, not those on benefits, now face the prospect of being poorer in 2020 than they are now. Once upon a time, benign employers raised pay to keep pace with the cost of living. And if they didn't, trades unions organised strikes to meet the need. But now it's different. Something has gone badly wrong, and the promise of Western capitalism of ever-rising rates of pay has turned out to be a cheque that's bounced. What's to be done? Tonight we're taking a report from an organisation called the Resolution Foundation, who've got their own ideas to tackle the problem. First, Allegra Stratton reports.
These kids, and then their kids, and then the kids of their kids, they'd suffer setbacks, but broadly theirs was to be a steady march across sunlit uplands. We all know about the American dream, but that faltered some decades back. In Britain, we would keep on, never having had it so good. Except the muscles carrying us up the hill are jamming. Women are being pushed from the jobs market by the cost of childcare. Both women and men are being pushed from it by machines, sheltering inside the home, with declining wherewithal to pay for that home. Assume the economy returns to average levels of growth. By 2020, lower income households could still be at incomes not seen since 1993. Middle income families could still be at incomes last seen in 2001. That's according to this man and 11 other wise men and women.
During the mid-90s through to the early 2000s, we had quite a good period, and then things turned a bit darker after that. It happened for a number of reasons. In part, the share of GDP going to profit rather than out to labour rose in that period, so there was less money left over to go into the pockets of workers, if you like. There were more costs put on employers, and that kind of squeezed wages a bit more. Also, the population's getting a bit older, so there was a greater kind of pension contributions, and we also just have high levels of wage inequality in this country. So if you're someone lower down the earnings spectrum, a lot of the money was being sucked upwards into the pockets of the better off. So we didn't do very well at sharing out the gains from growth during some of those years.
The Resolution Foundation's commission of 12 eminences from across public life probed figures like this. Why, from 2003 to 2008, did the incomes of low to middle income households grow by just 0.3% a year, when the economy grew at 1.4% a year? The boiler of living standards may not be working anymore. Can these chaps fix it?
I believe that I need to do more nowadays. So as when you said my mother and father would have had to done then, I genuinely need to do more than they did.
Why do you think that?
Well, just to live on a nice level, on where I would like to be, you know.
Such good union. One of Resolution's commissioners, Phil Bentley, is the managing director of British Gas. This hourglass economy is this idea that you've got these lousy jobs at the bottom and the lovely jobs at the top. So a lot of unskilled work out there, quite a few jobs at the top which are very skilled, but in the middle not so much. And you see your role as helping with that middle.
Well, all our people at British Gas have got really important skills, because they're either in our customers' homes helping them reduce their energy bill, or often just getting the heating working.
British Gas, by its own declaration, has been training people to light the gas lights of London for 200 years.
200 years.
So you've always been traiing. What's different about the jobs market now? You have to. I mean, this isn't a choice. You need to train them.
We've got great guys, but as you guys will attest, 50 people apply for every one place. So there are fewer jobs around like our jobs, because either you become a graduate and you're off at university, or sometimes you're in low-paid jobs. And in the middle there, these are the skills that require dexterity, require hard work, and people can progress.
Bentley sounds like a disciple of pre-distribution. That's the Labour leader's big idea. For the uninitiated, this is the thinking that the state can no longer easily redistribute wealth, and so employers have to do more.
We can't expect the state to bail us out. We're going to have to do it with our own skills and operate in a competitive, it's a competitive world out there, and Britain's got to compete. And that goes back to skills from schools, apprentices, all the way through. We're competing against Germany, competing against Singapore and the rest of the world.
Bentley and the other commissioners believe corporate Britain must spend more on wages. They show how, in the bottom 3 sectors on this bar chart, paying the living wage, which is higher than the minimum wage to reflect the cost of living, well, it wouldn't exactly break the bank.
Hello, Gabby.
And then what about opening the door to many people who currently feel slightly shut out? Over the last 30 years, many households have seen living standards rise because women entered the workforce. If it's to be reversed, so too will its effects on people's pockets. This is another of the Resolution Foundation's commissioners. Gabby Hinsliff used to do a job like mine. She was the Observer newspaper's political editor before she really did leave to spend more time with her family. Gabby doesn't pretend that her economic situation is typical of those on low to middle income jobs, but she knows firsthand what it's like to balance childcare with care for your career.
I think what I liked about the idea of this report is it took what often is seen as kind of fluffy female issues like childcare, working motherhood, and said, look, these are not kind of add-ons to politics. These are core economic issues. And getting women back to work, making sure people can work when they want to work, absolutely critical to the future of the economy and to GDP. And I like that kind of hard-edged approach, really.
The report shows that UK female employment remains at significantly lower levels than other advanced economies. The UK is 15th in the OECD for employment among women aged between 25 and 64. If Britain were to move up to see the same percentage of women at work as those better achieving economies, that would mean around 1 million extra women going into employment. The gap opens up when comparing mothers to non-mothers. There is, of course, another generation just as busy looking after yet another generation. The 55s to 65s who look after either their grandchildren or their elderly parents or both. Childcare, social care, a wraparound welfare state.
I think that there are problems at two ends of the scale. Everyone thinks about working mothers, and actually there's a real problem with over 55s as well. That's where another gap in the labour market exists, where people could be working but aren't. Now, for some other sort of squeezed middle group, they reach 55, they're ill, they've got heart problems, they're starting to get serious kind of morbidity, and they can't all be in work. However, there are a lot of people who probably could work, and what we're looking at is whether there are financial incentives. Say you allow them to keep more of their money at that stage, so you reduce the NICS threshold, then could more of those people be in work? Yeah.
So after a year, the Commission has come to an end. It recommends increasing the current free 15 hours of childcare for 3 to 4-year-olds to 25 hours a week. It would allow people to take part-time jobs. This would be charged at £1 an hour or £10 a week. They would also give more child tax credit to those with very young children. There would be less as children get older. And the Commission would reduce taxes for low-paid older workers to encourage them to stay in work. And finally, once and for all, the Commission would solve the thorny problem of social care and how to fund it. So, a report that shows that there is a way. Now over to Westminster to gauge if there is a will.
Well, gathered here are 3 of the people who contributed to the Living Standards Commission.